live. Ooh, it says live. Okay, hi. Hello. I'm a mess. What a way to start a live. Hi, everybody. I'm Gail Carriger. I write stuff. We're doing a live video. It's been a while. I took last month off. I usually do one of these a month. And now I'm back. And people are watching, so that's great. Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2022, the year of discombobulation. I've just titled it, and now I've doomed myself. Hopefully I'm ready for this. It's a little bit late, but I gotta plug my phone in because otherwise it dies halfway through. Okay, so the plan is I'm gonna talk a little bit about. Oh, Katie says that their laptop is back from the dead. Yay! I'm having laptop distress right now, but it's mostly my own fault. Okay, sorry. Please let me know where you're viewing in from, shall we say. I love the globalness of a live or a YouTube, so let me know where you are if you feel like it. You don't have to, but it always makes me happy to see the different parts of the world pop up in the comments. I am here in cold Northern California Bay Area, where we just went through a standard tsunami warning, which is everybody's warned. Back when I was a child, that meant we would have to evacuate, because I grew up in a seaside town on the coast. And then nothing happens. This is traditionally, I have many memories from my childhood. So we just had one of those this morning. That was fun. I am clearly a little discombobulated because it's been a while since I've done a live, but I'm ready. I have some notes. We're going to talk about what my 2022 plans are, and hopefully by the time I've done gurgling that, then you'll have some questions for me. Or we can just talk about other random stuff. But save your questions for a little while, because otherwise I have problems managing the comment thread. First of all, the lipstick, in case anybody asks, is an Ink Airy stick, 09. So there it is. That's what's on my lips. And this is the current teacup and tea for today. This is a Victorian, English-made, vintage, but I don't think it's that old. I mean, it's Victorian style. I don't think it is Victorian in age. It's very old and worn in luster. So, oh, you know what? It's not Victorian, it's Japanese. It says it's from occupied Japan. I inherited a bunch of teacups from a friend of a friend, and so I don't know very much about them. Not that it's really my area of expertise. Anyway, I just like the color combo. I thought it went with my outfit today, so that's why I chose this teacup. I also really like this really classic shape in a teacup. It makes me happy. What I am drinking is not my usual English breakfast or assam with milk. I'm actually drinking green. I talked in the Cheer Up, my newsletter, recently about the fact that I'm trying to explore and move into more green teas. I am drinking ginger peach green tea from Republic of Tea today. I really love this tea. I probably love it too much because I find it a little overpriced. But it's really good, and I have to say I wish it were a perfume. I love the smell of this tea. It's almost as much as I love actually drinking it. So that's where we are, the teacup and the tea for the day. So, shall we talk a little bit about future plans? So again, I talk and I keep track of this in way more detail in the Cheer Up, which is my newsletter, which is once a month. If you sign up for it, you can sign up for it on my website. But I thought we'll just go over it live a little bit so that I remind myself of the things that I have to accomplish this year. So the first thing that's happening is the Delightfully Deadly Omnibus is going to be coming out. That is the Delightfully Deadly books. There are 3 of them. One novella, one that's a bit longer than novella, and one that's an actual book length, but you know, it's going to be a fat omnibus. Subterranean, who's publishing it, have already told me about that. So just as a quick, so this is the first one that Subterranean did for me. It is a reprint of Soulless, so it's basically everything it's just the same as Soulless. There's not that much different. It's just in this fancy case-wrapped hardback. It has a sort of texture of cloth to it, and then the shine, and then they always give me a super fun flap inside. So that was the first one Subterranean Press did for me, and then this is the second one, Fan Service. This one has the 2 Supernatural Society novellas in it, so it has Lyle and Biffy's story and Madame LeFou's and Imogen's story, so that's Romancing the Inventor and Romancing the Werewolf. And then it also has Meet Cute, which is the Meet Cute prequel of Alexia and Connell first meeting each other for the Soulless series. So that's what this one has in it. And so those ones only, and that's the only place Meet Cute exists in print. So that was the second thing that Subterranean did for me. And now we're working together to do this third one, which is gonna be the Delightfully Deadly books. So that's this series, all 3 of them in an omnibus. So it will be the same size and style of these 2. It's blue. For those of you who haven't seen it, you can go, it's on my website, you can check it out there, with this embossed look to it and the cameo and everything. So hopefully you will like it. I'm pretty excited about it. And that will be the first time Ambush or Adore is in print. So Ambush or Adore was my last Parasol verse release. It's the 3rd one in the Delightfully Deadly series, and that omnibus will be its first print edition. It will eventually also get a paperback, just like this one, these ones. So it's just going to take a little while, probably the end, closer towards the middle of summer or the end of the year, for the paperback version. So I'll get hardback first and then the paperback. But if you're used to the traditional publishing world of print, you're used to a hardback first and then a paperback. So there it is. So that's the first thing that's coming out. Now, here's the thing about this special edition is you can still get, there's a few left. It's a limited run, so once the print run is sold out, there will never be any more ever made again. So if you want it, you should get the omnibus, the Delightfully Deadly omnibus. It's up for pre-order now. You can only order it through Subterranean. You can't get it through any other bookstore vendors online. You might be able to order it from a local bookstore. I'm not sure on that one, but most people are getting it from Subterranean. And then once it's gone, it's gone. But because of all of the problems, which I hope anybody who's in the book world is kind of aware of now, with distribution chains and supply chains with printed books, it is supposed to be at the printer now and going out to everybody who's ordered one soon in order to actually release in February, which is technically its release date. But nobody's guaranteeing any actual drop dates because the supply chain is such an issue right now for print. So, but it is at the printer, it is being printed, it will happen. We're just not really sure on the exact date it will show up at your house. So sorry about that. Trust me, you could not be more annoyed with the supply chain than my cat, who has had to eat different cat food from normal, because we can't get her regular cat food, and it is, as far as Lilliput is concerned, the end of the world. She is so mad with us for not giving her, try to explain to a cat the problems with the global supply chain, I ask you. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The first thing that's coming from me is that omnibus edition. The second thing that will come from me in the spring is going to be Crud Rat. So some of you are familiar with Crud Rat. This book only exists as a Kickstarter backer reward. So I think there are about, 400 of them in the world. No, 62 of the 62 of them in the world, something like that. They're very hard to find. This was a Kickstarter reward for backing the full cast audio. Now, the full cast audio of Crud Rat is available pretty much on every audio platform. What I have done is basically gone through, edited, and synchronized Crud Rat, which is an old sci-fi YA adventure, sort of Heinleinian adventure YA that I did. I have kind of redone it to fit in with the Tinkered Stars universe, so that they both are taking place now in the same universe. So like the aliens are a little bit more reconciled and matched up and stuff like that. Because I'm currently also writing a series in that universe, so I wanted everything to jive. So I'll be releasing this Crud Rat in digital for ebooks and in print as a paperback that will go with this one. So it'll be in the same style for collect reasons, so that they look good on a shelf together. So that one's going to come out in the spring. Right now, I'm working with a new cover designer for that. That's very exciting and nerve-wracking. I've worked with Starla, my regular cover designer, for about 6 years, and she's gone on to other greater things. We're still very good friends, but sadly, she has, well, sad for me, great for her. She's got an amazing job that she's really, in design as well, that she's really, really happy with. So she doesn't have time to do my covers anymore. So I'm trying a new cover art designer for this new edition of Crud Rat. So that'll be exciting. We'll have the cover reveal to the Cheer Up soon. So I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be the spring release. And then mid to late summer, early fall, you'll get the Ambush or Adore in this version, which I talked about. So that'll be a print release is happening for Ambush or Adore, which is the third one, for those of you who collect in print. And then September, October, November, I'm not sure. Something is gonna happen then. I haven't decided what that thing will be yet, because that's like the thing I write next. And so right now I'm 20,000 words into the third book of the Tinkered Starsong series, and I want to finish the series and then do a couple of edits and stuff. And then I've got these books to bring out, like Crud Rat and stuff. And then I can turn my attention to what I want to write next. And what I want to write next, I'm not sure. So one of the reasons I transitioned to being more indie and less traditionally driven as a writer was so that I could have flexibility and like taste and options for writing. So we'll see. And that, if it goes well and fast or is a shorter project, that will be the thing I come out with in the kind of winter, end of the year. Or I have a special Parasolverse project, which I've been teasing for several years now, because it's not me, it's me and somebody else. So that's slowly been in the works. So that might happen. I'm not sure about the first quarter. I could actually start releasing the Tinkered Starsong books, which, you know, we can talk about later. But if you're following the NanoCast right now, then I'm doing a podcast right now with J. Daniel Sawyer called The Everyday Novelist. We're doing a January NaNoWriMo where we're both working on books together and talking about them from craft perspective, but we're also giving advice in terms of world building and characters and stuff like that. You will hear me talking about my current word project there, which is the Tinkered Starsong stuff. So that I might bring the first one in that series out in the fall. I'm just not sure. So the end of the year is kind of up in the air. I could do a Parasolverse short. If I start writing a Parasolverse short story, though, sometimes those become novellas, so who knows. A Parasolverse novella takes longer to get through the editing and betaing process, though, because there's so much continuity checking that needs to be done and historical checking. And Parasolverse stuff always has 2 sets of proofreaders as well, because it has to be read by someone who copy edited by somebody who is an expert in the Victorian world, and she's a little bit harder to get a hold of. So all the Parasolverse stuff has kind of a longer production schedule, because it has more I have more contract workers involved who I need to line up to make those things work. So even if I started writing a Parasolverse thing, it would take longer to bring out. So anyway, yes, that's a lot of gurgling for the end of the year, but the beginning of the year looks pretty good. I hope you're excited about it. I hope you're looking forward to the things that are coming out. The other change from my perspective is the print stuff is going to be brought out through a different distributor. You should not see any changes your end, but it's going to be interesting my end working with a different distributor. And like I said, having a new cover art designer is a big thing as well. So that's also, you know, putting kinks in the process. If I need to find the woman I'm working with, it seems awesome, but is also very high in demand. So I have to wait And so sometimes that, might not work with my schedule. I might have to find a second person, complicated. So, but there it is. So there are the plans. There's all the books in the works. Now, how about some questions? And you can ask me questions about that. You can ask me questions about writing. Although, yeah, you can ask me questions about life, the universe, or anything. And while the comment threads figure that out, I'm going to drink some tea. Yay, tea. I hope everyone else is having a nice warm beverage. Unless, of course, it's very hot where you are, in which case I hope you're having a nice cool beverage. Let me see if anybody's asked a question prior to this. Oh, quick reminder, put a question mark at the beginning of your question. That way when I'm flipping through the chat, I can remember to, I can spot them too. Dick asks, how about SAAS, which is the San Andreas Shifter series? That's these guys. Boop. Right. I have the fourth book in the San Andreas Shifters series is already announced and has a title, which I normally don't do. But at the time when I did do that, I was very optimistic, and it was pre-lockdown, before my mind went bonkers. So yes, I have plans for the fourth one in this series. I just haven't gotten it to it yet, and that's partly because I think, like, emotionally and psychologically, I need to escape the world more than I ever have before. And these books are the most intimately associated with my actual world. They're set where I grew up and where I live, or in the general area. Even though obviously they aren't real, they're urban fantasy. But I just think that I am struggling to climb into that particular urban fantasy world because it's too close to home. And right now, pretty much everything I'm hungry for and searching for, the pop culture I'm consuming, the music I'm listening to, and the stuff I'm writing is all like an effort to get myself as far away from home as possible. And that's like my survival tactic. And so San Andreas Shifters has just sort of taken to the back burner because I don't really want to think about it right now. And that's not I can't push that headspace, right? Like, I can't force myself to write something if I'm that, like, uninterested in it. But it will come back. Don't worry. It's just, I think maybe my life has to get back to some semblance of normalcy where I am traveling again and in motion again and all that sort of stuff, which hopefully will in fact happen in the not too distant future. All right, I think we have enough questions for now. There's so many questions. Oh my goodness. Katie asks, ooh, do I have any songs that get me in the mood for writing love scenes? What a great question. I actually have like a makeout playlist. Portishead. Like, there's some like bands that are just, a little electro funk, that kind of slow thing, but I don't really listen to music for inspiration very often. I'm more like one of those writers who listens to music for like background noise. So I listen to music because I need to drown out something else that's going on, like tree work or something. Or I listen to music that, like, as sort of an ambient thing, as if I were in a cafe or something, because I love writing in cafes. So I think I don't really listen to it as much for inspiration. But probably Portishead, if anything. What have I read lately that I really enjoyed? So one of the other things that, like, the last couple of years have done is really affect my reading habits. I've really been struggling to read. So I just went back and did some rereads of old favorites, many of which if you look up Gail Carriger comfort reads, you'll find on those lists. I've been thinking about, like, rereading some Tamora Pierce or something, like, really rooted in my childhood, just out of desperation to get myself back into the mood. But what I have been reading is mostly nonfiction right now. Odd, because that's reality-based. But, like, and, like, nonfiction, like, psych research in conjunction with the sci-fi book that I'm currently writing. So it's about, like, group behavior patterns and euphorias and religious experiences and stuff like that. So sadly, nothing that I really feel like I should recommend to you all. Eddie wants to know how much of the Parasol Verse series I had mapped out before I published Soulless, and the answer is none at all. Nothing was mapped out. Okay. Actually, and this is something that I've talked about, but like never really directly, when I first wrote Soulless, I did have the idea of Prudence's character. So I knew that there would be a child, and I knew what her abilities, what a metanatural abilities would be like when I first wrote Soulless. And I actually had always intended Soulless to be a standalone prequel for what would become the Custard Protocol series. But then when I was in contract negotiations for Soulless, it turned out that the publisher wanted a series with those characters in the urban fantasy model. And so that is what happened. So I wrote Soulless, and then the version you guys got is not materially different, but there's definitely more threads and more world building in after I had rewritten it, with the idea that there would at least be a second book. And then when I was writing the second book, it ended up being a cliffhanger because I come out of science fiction and fantasy, and second books are cliffhangers. It's just how I roll. And then my editor freaked out because it was a cliffhanger, and she wanted to read the next one in the cliffhanger, so we got a contract for the third book, and then I'm writing the third book, and I'm like, yeah, this needs 2 more books, so we got a contract for 2 more books. So that's where our 5 books in the Parasol verse came from, but it definitely was not intended. I learned my lesson, though, with that, so when I pitched the Finishing School series, I basically was like, 4 books, and this is the overarching plot. Here's the plot of the first book. Here's the summation. And then they made me write the first third of the book to make sure that I could write YA. So I sold the 4 books for the Finishing School series as a packaged deal on the strength of a pitch that was for an overarching plot theme for the 4 books, which was the abandonment of technology with the Mechanimals and everything. And then I did the individual books within it, which was fun. I like that. I like that process of writing all of the books at once under a kind of one concept idea for a series. That's why I've returned to it. So I kind of cleared my schedule intentionally and also accidentally because of the world for the last 1.5 years. And during that time, I got myself emotionally back together again, and I have been writing this trilogy because I enjoy a linked series so much, and it's been so long since I've gotten an opportunity to write one. Because generally I would only do it when I was under contract, and this time around I was like, no, I really want to write this sci-fi series. I'm just going to do it, and we'll see if anybody wants to buy it or not. I'm at the point it's like the why bother point of my author career or something. And then by the time the Custard Protocol rolled around, there were some, how am I politic about this, concerns with my publisher in terms of I'd lost my original editor at the publishing house, and then been it's called orphaning, and moved to other editors. And so I just pitched 2 books for the Custard Protocol series. And then I don't have a copy of a Custard Protocol book here. Anyway, you guys know which ones those are. I pitched those 2 books for Custard Protocol, and then went back into contract negotiations to see, which is why the Custard Protocol, the first 2 books are both Prudence's books, and they kind of stand together, and then Competence is sort of on its own, and then Reticence is sort of on its own. And that was me not wanting to leave everything up in the air if I got too tetchy about contract with my publisher and stormed off in the middle of the series. So it kind of has 2 that stand alone and then 1 that stand alone, just to make sure that because I didn't want any of my readers to ever be upset with me about anything unfinished. So yeah. But I also, Custard Protocol, I had a good idea that that's how I wanted to write it as well. So I always knew going into Custard Protocol that I wanted to write 2 books from Prudence's perspective and 1 book from Primrose's perspective, which is competence. And then the fourth one, I wasn't sure whose perspective I wanted to write it from, but I knew it wasn't going to be Primrose or Prudence. Haley Poole asks if Subterranean will ever do a reprint of the limited edition books. So if there will ever be, so I think there are 700 of these, of this exact version of this book. Maybe 740, and those 40 were for contributors. For like I had a couple and stuff. They're not part of the official print run, but essentially there are 700 printed. It sold out in like 2 weeks once this edition was announced, because this was the first English language hardcover of Soulless. Orbit would go on to do the illustrated edition, but at the time when this one came out, this was the only way a reader of English could get a hardcover version of this book, and it sold out fast. But here's the way it works when you do a special edition like this. And in this particular case, the negotiation to do this edition had to happen between Subterranean, the specialist press, and Orbit, my original publisher, because Orbit has the hardcover rights to this book. So it wasn't even, I wasn't really involved. And part of that contract is that they only do 700 of that book. That's the way they're allowed to do it. So they paid an advance, in this case to Orbit, for the rights to do exactly 700 of the book. They legally cannot do it again. They would have to renegotiate and get a new contract. So that's it. So that's the long answer, but the short answer is no. They could be sued if they did that without getting a new contract, and it's probably too much of a bother to get a new contract just to reprint like 50 of them or other. But that's also the reason people buy them, because they are specifically collector's edition. Everybody who buys this book also knows that it's very, very limited. And that when you see, so the tipped in pages, this page here, which is my signature page, will have a line at the bottom, and on that line it says this is copy, and then it will have a number. The ones you buy will have a number, and that's literally the number of the print run. So if you have number 40, you have the 40th copy printed of the 700. And that there are people out there, that's what they are paying for. They are paying for the fact that they got an exclusive item. It's in marketing, or sales and marketing, this is the luxury scarcity model. So yeah, there will be no more. This is it. And for this one, which I believe is also sold out, that is it. There are only however many of these there were. I can't remember. This might have been 800 or 900. And then the current one, I think they're doing a few more than normal. So the Delightfully Deadly one, which is pre-order right now, I think maybe is 1,000 print run. I'm sorry, I cannot remember my print run numbers. But when I say, like in the newsletter or on live or whatever, if you want it, you should buy it, I'm not joking. Like, when they are sold out, they are actually sold out, and no, you'll never get that again. So yeah, I mean, it is not great for people who can't afford it or don't have the money, or don't have the money at the time that the pre-order is running and stuff like that. And I understand it, which is why I also try to put all of my books out in other versions of print. But for the business model that Subterranean runs off of, which is these beautiful books, that's how they manage to do it, is by making them exclusive and making them only a few of them. Anne wants to know if moving on. Anne would like to know if we're going to see Spoo again. I've talked about the fact that she is one of those characters I would love to spin off and write about. So I could imagine writing more Spoo, or serialized, or short stories or something with her, but I haven't. But I don't rule it out. She's definitely a character that there's a lot of meat to her, and it would be fun to see where she goes and what she does with her life. Will we see more Triss? Yes. I have a very good idea for Triss is the main character from this series. And I have a very good idea for the... Oh, shoot. Hold on. Sorry, battery problems. I thought my thing was plugged in and it's not. Well, if I disappear all of a sudden, my phone died. So Triss, I have a really good idea for the second book of this series, and I would love to write it. It's merely a matter of getting my table clean. It could be the one that I write next after I finish Tinkered Star Song, depending on how I feel, if I want to climb into that universe or not. But yeah, I have a really good idea, and it will definitely happen eventually, in some form or another, even if it's only if it's a smaller piece, like a novella or something. But I really want to write it, and I can see it happening. So I think there will be more Triss and Dre and the space station. Clinton asked if my parasol scabbard is still in my office, and yes, it's right over there. I am looking at it right now, but I'm not going to swing you around to see it because I'm embarrassed about the state of my office at the moment. Charity asks, in the Unknown Fall projects, are we thinking about series or standalones? Well, like I said, it could be the next Triss book. It'll probably be a standalone, but it could be a standalone within a series, like the Delightfully Deadly books were. So it could be a next Triss book. If I feel like climbing back into the Parasol verse, it could be the next Claw and Courtship book. I have that one on the back burner. It could be a short story in the Parasol verse, like featuring known favorite characters. So that's something that I've been contemplating. What else was I thinking about recently? It could be the second Crud Rat book, because the first one will be coming out, and I've always wanted to write the second one. So I don't know. So it could be series, could be. It probably won't be another big series like I've just been writing, because I think I'll probably need a breather with something that's more standalone-ish, in terms of the idea that like the Triss, the series I'm writing right now is like a true sci-fi series, in that you have to have read the first book to read the second one. The events progress, there's a real strong concept overarching and a sort of mystery about the alien race and their technology that you uncover more of as each book progresses. And like the threads are left up in the air. So there's no resolution to the, life of the characters or the relationships of the characters or anything like that. So like it is a series. It is 3 books. It will go 1, 2, 3. It will be hard between the books. Sorry, not sorry. It's really me kind of climbing back into my roots of sci-fi and fantasy, when, you really loved tucking into those kinds of series, where you just got totally absorbed and you move from one to the next. The Delightfully Deadly books are what I would call linked books. So they are a series, but they're not sequential. You can read them in any order. They have crossover characters. You could just read one of them. You don't have to read all of them. So that's different. And then these books are kind of, so they're more sort of cozy mystery style. So each one will have a mystery that is resolved. Each one is a bit more just kind of character driven. Like this first one was a bit of a romance, but like the next one won't necessarily have a romance. It will have a mystery though. It's going to have another mystery, but it's going to be a little bit more like fun progression in the main character's relationship with each other, but also more about new characters and somebody is killed, etc., right? So, so there's sort of different kinds of series is all I'm saying. And it kind of, but the sort of short answer to that question is I don't imagine what I'm going to do next will be another big linked series like this one I'm working on the 3rd book. Because as much as I'm enjoying it, it really is a commitment in terms of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Bandwidth, I guess. It really takes a lot of my brain. especially high concept. It's very absorbing. And I think I probably will need a break from that. And I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if you guys are going to like the series. You know, I just don't know if I want to, but I have been having a really good time with it, I have to say. How does one procure a hardback copy? Back to these guys again. Sometimes they turn up on like eBay and places like that. Like sometimes people will have a copy and they will sell them that. I have a few of these still myself, which I may give away or offer for sale through the newsletter, the Cheer Up. So if you're a subscriber to the Cheer Up, you might get an option at some point for some of those. Especially if I have to move offices or something, because then I go through a spate where I have to clear out first editions and special editions and stuff, and then I only ever offer those for sale to my newsletter. And I like that is never public. So when I say like there are exclusive that are only through the newsletter, that's the kind of thing that's only through my newsletter. So so those might show up there at some point. Yeah, that's how you get a hold of them, stalking various corners of the internet or me. Melissa wants to know if there's going to be a color coordinated wedding in our future. We're back on this series. Maybe that's one of the things I would really love to put into the next book. Will the omnibus of the Delightfully Deadly, that's the coming up, ever be a digital edition? Well, all of the sub-books are already in digital. So Poison or Protect, Ambush or Adore, and Defy or Defend are all available in digital. And those are the books that are in the omnibus. So it's already both. If you're asking for the digital bundle of all 3 books together, maybe. I did do a digital bundle of fan service, and to be perfectly frank, it doesn't sell very well, but it's also like really easy for me to put a digital bundle together. So maybe if I need some content to fill in my, production schedule at some point, I might put together a digital bundle, basically, which is all the Delightfully Deadly would be. But at the moment, I've no particular plans because this one was in digital form was a failed proof of concept, so it doesn't prove the concept. Lavender asks, am I by nature organized regarding publishing and cover and such, or did I need to develop the skill set when I started self-publishing? I'm by nature pretty organized and OCD. I love, not OCD in the diagnosed sense of it, but I love spreadsheets. I am recently thinking about Gantt software, which is project management software. It's very hard to be organized about a creative endeavor because I don't know when a book's going to be done, right? When I'm done writing it, it's done. So it's really hard for me to predict how long it will take me to write a thing. And that makes everything difficult about production, because until I'm finished with it, I can't really put a book into production, because by in production, I mean I need to get a developmental editor, I need to get my beta readers to read something, I need to get copy editors to read it, I need to get cover art, all that other stuff. So everything kind of waits on that for the book to be written. And sometimes, some of you will have noticed this over the years, I won't even talk about what I'm writing because I'm so unsure about when it's going to be done, and I don't want to lead anybody on. Like, the only reason I'm talking about the Tinkered Star Song books is because 2 of them are finished. So I know I did at least 2. It's like I have this weird, I've written 35 books, and I'm still scared I'm not going to finish one. Right? And I'm like, completing a book is not my problem, and yet I'm still scared about that for myself. So I never want to overpromise and underdeliver, so I work really, really hard to underpromise and overdeliver. So, yeah. So to answer the question in terms of like publishing and cover art and stuff like that, I'm pretty good and pretty organized and pretty like good for an author, especially at the like marketing, publication, promotional, like organizational side of production for books, more than a lot of other authors I know personally. but it's still dependent on a creative endeavor, and so I'm not as organized as I would like to be about it. And the other downside is, unlike a traditional publishing house, there's no big machinery that goes into play once the book has been delivered, right? The upside of traditional publishing is becomes out of my hands and other people take care of everything. Cover art, editing, all that sort of stuff. And then it's just on me to meet a deadline when I have to get copy edits reviewed or something like that. With self-publishing, I have to line all of these people up, and so that can also cause delays. So, like, then I have to, when I'm finally done with the book, then I'm like, oh, right, time to get cover art. I have to contact a cover art designer, I have to see what their time slots are like, and so on and so forth. So, a lot of delays happen in production at that juncture because I'm reliant on other people's schedules, and the best people you can hire, others are also using. It's the nature of contract work, right? If they're a good cover art designer, they're in demand. If they're a good editor, they're in demand. So I have to wait for a time slot or what have you. And so, yeah, so the organization is also dependent on other people, and that throws off my schedules. But I do love a schedule. I do love a spreadsheet. But the simple answer is I essentially have a checklist of things that start to get engaged once a book reaches a certain state. So the moment a book is done with its rough draft, I have a checklist that engages. That's like, line up the beta readers, contact this person, blah, 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 blah. The moment a book has cover art, I have a checklist that's engaged that includes cover art reveal to the Chirrup members, right? Because you guys get to see it first. And then cover art reveal on the blog, and then this, and then this, and then this, you know, setting up the pre-order, all that sort of thing. And then when the book is in like a month out from release, I have a checklist. And then after a book is released, I have a checklist, because things like the copyright being filed aren't allowed to happen until after a book has been dropped. So there's like, yeah. And it's just an Evernote checklist, which is highly inefficient. It ought to be in a Gantt or a project management system, but I'm not that good. And you get to the point with this kind of thing where, like, I do it the way I've always done it now for 6 years, and there would be a whole learning curve for me and Kelly to move to a different system, and in the end, that system would probably be more efficient, but I have to go through the learning curve, and I don't want to. Kala... forgive me, Kala, if I don't pronounce your name correctly, asks if I would ever create a parasol versus coloring book. I think that's a wonderful idea, and we'll just leave it there, shall we? Ha ha. Have I ever read Clark's newest Master of Dungeon? I read the original novella, Black God Drums? Is that the title? Oh, I'm terrible on titles. I'm terrible on authors as well, quite frankly. And I thought it was great. The concept is insane. It's really good, everybody. D-J-E-L-I Clark is the name of the author. They write steampunk. Set in... Well, the one I read was set in Cairo, in like a steampunk Cairo... Anyway, I hope I'm not conflating it. It was a long time ago. I read it when it came out, so like, which was years ago. But the world was amazing. That's all I really remember, was how like crazy good the world building was. Highly recommend you check them out if you're a steampunk fan. Clark. Anyway, but no, I'm not caught up at all because I suck. And I am totally one of those readers who, if there's too big of a gap between one book and the next in a series, I just forget everything about everything that existed. I'm totally somebody who should just binge series. Like, it's a terrible reader to be, because what I should do, and I maybe have done this with Clark, in fact, is buy the books as they come out and then read them all when the series is complete. Jenny asks, more custard, please. Well, I would like more custard in my life. Custard is one of my favorite foods. If you're asking for more custard protocol, that's unlikely. I'm out of contract on that series. I'm still under option, but I'm out of contract. And I don't envision doing anymore in that series. I don't rule out like novellas or side stories or something like that, or spin-offs or what have you, but in the actual mainstay series, I don't think I'll write anymore. The new series, talking about Tinkered Star Song. Will I publish all 3 in the same year? I am planning on, we keep skipping around. Welcome to one of Gail's lives. This is the Tinkered Star Song, which is in this universe. Although right now I think it's technically in the YA arena, so it will be under Gail Carriger, like Crudrat. So it's kind of more in the Crudrat universe, Crudrat sector of the universe, than it is in the 5th gender sector of the universe. Will I publish all 3 in the same year? I will publish all 3 in close conjunction with each other, yes. If it's me publishing them. I'm thinking about maybe trying to sell this one traditional, the trilogy, but I'm sort of against it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna send it off. The first one will go off to my agent in the not too distant future, and I basically will just be like, agent, what do you think? Should we try and sell this to a traditional publisher, or should I not bother to try? Historically speaking, sci-fi, YA sci-fi is not like a huge selling category. And if I sell a series that has taken up so much of my time, I mean, this has taken almost a year and a half to write. If I sell such a thing to a traditional publisher, I need a good advance, and it needs to sell well. Like, I have to think in terms of like the time that I've spent writing it. I need to get the value for that time back. This is my job, so I have to think about that sort of thing. Which means the kind of advance that I would like is probably not something that goes for this genre right now, to put it crassly. Sorry, it is my living. And so that's part of it. The other part of it is like there's a part of me that really just wants to like see what a rapid release style for a series of this kind is like once every couple of months or something like that, you know. So if I am going to do it myself, it will be fast and close to each other. Like once every month or every 2 months or something like that would probably be what I would look into, like strategically what the best option is and what I feel like and that sort of a thing. What the buzz is like on the first one, what the pre-order system is like. You know, there's a lot of like messy little tidbits to look into if I'm doing it myself. I think I will probably end up doing it myself, but I don't know because I'm terribly out of touch with how the publishing world is at any given time. So I need to like rope my agent in and see what she thinks, because I trust her implicitly, and we'll have a whole conversation about it. Jesse says, the Parasol, Protectorate, and the Custard Protocol, for that matter, took us to a lot of different countries. Is there a country that... Ooh, this is a great question. Is there a country that I haven't written about yet that I really would love to write about? Ooh. Particularly at a historical time period, if we're talking about the Parasolverse. Yes. So, I did quite a bit of research for one of my master's degrees on a site called Raqqa, or Al-Raqqa, in Syria, which is Aleppo, and the site is no more. But that particular like time period, the Byzantine, Islamic 12th to 8th, sort of 8th to 12th century empiric conflict is very interesting to me, and that part of the world is very interesting to me. So that is something that I would love to have people travel to and explore a little bit more. So sort of the northern Constantinople down towards Jordan part of the Fertile Crescent. I tend to like to write about places that I've visited, even if I'm writing about them in the past, because I feel like when I've traveled somewhere, I get a sense, and I've talked about this before, but I get a sense of like the lighting and the vegetation and the earth, the color of the earth, and the way stones are, like, you know, I have geology minor, so like andesitic, basaltic, like what the sedimentary state is the stability feel of it, you know, in terms of like plate tectonics, like crazy stuff like that. I feel like until you visit a place and get the light and the smell and the sound, even though it's different now than it was in the past, it's still a access to the way it was in the past, in a limited way. And it then is easier for me to write the past of that area if I've actually seen it and interfaced with it with my own, as a human, right? Like, so I plan to go to Thailand hopefully this year, maybe not, but hopefully. So it is definitely possible that Thailand will then get in a book. Like, I do that all the time, right? I visit a place for various reasons, and then that place pops up in a book later. That's what happened with Singapore, and so on and so forth. So that's one. Where else do I really want? Yeah, there are definitely places where I'm like, you know, the Alsace regions of Germany and France is a part of the world that I love that, you know, has never gotten into any of my books. So yeah, Edinburgh I adored when I visited. It's never really been in a book yet. So I mean, Nottingham made a book because I lived in Nottingham for a while. I've actually been thinking about in the future, you know, in the next 10 years or so, if I'd like to go live in a foreign country for a while. I haven't done that. I did it in the past quite a bit. I think it would be fun to do that again. So, you know, a place I go and live will probably end up in a book. Amanda says that I've mentioned recently that I need to be able to visualize a scene before I can write. I talk about the epiphany moment, which is when I see a scene of two characters in dialogue crystal clear in my head, and that's the moment at which I know I can write a whole book with those characters. But until I've seen that scene, I can't write the book. They're saying that that they're this way too, but finds themselves stuck. I can't write the next chapter as I can't visualize this. My quickest, like, any advice, my quickest tip then is to allow yourself to be nonlinear. So, you know, like, take a walk, do a thought experiment, get into a shower, sit in a hot tub, something like that, and just, like, think about where your characters want to go, where you want them to end up, where you think they might go next. And if it's the next chapter you can't see happening, but you see another scene of them interacting, like 2 chapters down the way, or you see the sex scene where they finally get together, or even if you see the end where whatever it is culminates, the planet is saved, whatever it is that's happening in the book happens, just let yourself write that instead. It's okay. Like, you don't have to write chapter by chapter. You don't have to write linearly. I do a lot of, like, jumping around sporadic scene writing. And sometimes those scenes are going to end up on the cutting room floor. And sometimes I have so many of them, I'm sort of writing to each other, you know, with these scenes. But it keeps me creative and it keeps me writing. And that's the most important part, is, like, don't limit yourself. If you're struggling to write at all, don't limit yourself. Don't even limit yourself to this project. Like, the point is to get the words on the page, as far as I'm concerned. I'm at the state as a writer where I can confine myself to the project I'm on. Like, that's okay. But yeah, just let yourself see if allowing yourself to be nonlinear helps you with that. Like, just don't write the next chapter. Write 2 chapters away. It's okay. All right, I think we're sort of winding down here. It seems a relatively quiet live today, but that's okay. Let's keep things mild and quiet. Let's this time around. Just scanning through the comments, see if there's another question. Nicole asks, how did I prep to write my YA series? This one, the answer is I actually used, I talk about on the NaNoWriMo podcast that I've been doing recently that I actually don't do cards very often, 3x5 card, like planning and mapping. But with the YA, I actually have done that in the past. I just do outlining. I tend to have basically a sort of concept outline, which is essentially like 2 or 3 paragraphs about each book, which is like, this is going to be the main conflict in this book. For the overarching theme, these are the things that need to be discovered in this book by the main character about, in this case, the one I'm currently writing, the aliens. This is how the, like, romance, if there is a romance or a relationship, progresses. And then in YA, this is how these are the things that the character is learning about themselves. So all YA, I would argue, is coming of age or finding your place as part of the narrative. And so I like to make sure that every book I write when I'm writing YA has some aspect of that. So some aspect of not just learning about how the world works, but where your place is in that world, how you react and are going to react in the future to new information about the functionality of the political system around you, or the natural world, or whatever it is that your character is figuring out. But also, like, how am I gonna change and adjust my own personality because of the people that affect me, or the kind of love that I feel, those sorts of things. So, so each book has these sort of theme things. What is the reader learning about the universe? What is the character learning about themselves and the reader with them? And what does the character want to do in reaction to these discoveries? And how is the character going to change? So it's like these 3 segments for each book. And that's kind of concept stuff. And then the individual book has a basic outline, which I've talked about before. So that's how I approach YA. And series in general. It's a little different if it's an adult length, a series for adult readers, but because, drivers are different, but for YA, that's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way. It's just my way. No, there are no hard and fast rules to writing as far as I'm concerned. It's whatever gets you to put words on the page. That's all that matters. So how are we doing on time? All right, this will be the last question. It's from Lavender. I'm sorry if I didn't make your question or I accidentally skipped it next time, or you can always get a hold of me in a different way, and Dan and I will take the question on the podcast or something like that if it's about writing. Lavender asks, do I know of any good platforms to serialize a release? I know some people have done Patreon accounts to do things like that, but they're wondering if there's anything else interesting out there. I'm not a serialization consumer. I have only used Tapaz, which I did like. That's a cacao conglomerate, so it's out of South Korea. I found the interface enjoyable. It's coin-based serialization. I paid to read something on that platform, so I know exactly how it worked, and I enjoyed the experience. So, but I know there are more popular and considered better versions of it, like Radish. The only thing I would say with a serialization platform is pay very, very, very close attention to the contract. Some of them are extremely rights grabby. So yeah, that's the real danger zone with the serialization platforms from the author side of the equation. The doggerel amongst those of us who talk about these things is that some of their contract terms are pretty anti-artist. So, just be aware of that with serialization. I know a couple of authors who are looking into sort of direct sale serialization platforms, so how to use something like Gumroad or Cells or PayHip or whatever that I already have on my, that's how if you buy directly from me, you're using Gumroad, which is a platform. How to use something like that for serialization, people are looking into that, which basically just means you would be paying the creative directly, and the creative would be delivering to you directly, so Patreon wouldn't even be involved taking a cut or anything. So it's just more intimate author-reader relationship. I like that idea, but I don't write serialized. It's not really the style I write in, although I have one book that would work for that. That's in the trunk at the moment. That's not a great way to end, but there it is. I hope you all are super excited about the new projects that I have coming up, and join the newsletter to find out, the cover art saga and all the new sci-fi that's coming out and stuff like that. And I'll keep you informed on the next live, and hopefully if I haven't answered your question, you'll tune into that one and I can answer it then. And I'll see you all in a month. Yay! Bye!